Zhao Shu did not hide his figure and was naturally quickly noticed by Betty and others. Who are you? Betty held a big flag, frowned, and had a sense of vigilance in her eyes. Although the revolutionaries have developed for a considerable amount of time now, they are still considered a new force by the world government. From the perspective of organization, they are still a fledgling force. No matter the scope of influence, the depth of ideology, or the strength within the organization. From various perspectives, the current Revolutionary Army is far from being comparable to the future Revolutionary Army. After all, how old is Luffy now? The Revolutionary Army needs at least 10 years of cultivation, continuous replenishment of funds, and constant training of new recruits in order to have an increasingly greater influence. With a small force, the Marines and other forces could attack the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army at any time. It is inevitable for Betty to be vigilant. We are people who have just joined the Revolutionary Army. Do you know her? Robin, the light of revolution. Zhao Shu smiled and pointed to Robin beside him. He himself is not well known, but Robin has a bigger reputation within the Revolutionary Army. Robin rolled her eyes, but Betty's sense of vigilance dissipated a lot. Betty is not the future commander of the Eastern Army now. Judging from her appearance, she seems to be responsible for recruiting and training. With the ability of the Inspire fruit, it is actually very convenient to train recruits. The light of revolution. Betty glanced at Robin, then looked back at Zhao Shu. She always felt that the way this person was looking at her wasn't good. It's already late now, are you still continuing your training? Zhao Shu stretched lazily. Sweating all over, it doesn't smell good. When he said this, he was looking at Betty. Betty was wearing a red long-sleeved vest, with a tie around her neck and wearing gloves. Her clothes were open, revealing her snow-white skin in the center. She wore a long-tailed skirt on her lower body, with the front being particularly short and the back being particularly long, revealing her thighs in red boots. This is simply a non-mainstream little sister look, but her snow-white skin is covered in sweat. Quite a lot is exposed. The Revolutionary Army is the leader of the common people. How could we slack off in training? Betty's face sank. Since you are also a member of the Revolutionary Army, why don't you just train with me? Just right. During the training, she can teach this guy who can't control his eyes a lesson. Robin had a strange smile at the corner of her mouth. Betty is just a teenager now. How can she hide her thoughts in front of Robin? But train Zhao Shu. Although Zhao Shu hasn't made many moves and his opponents are not particularly powerful experts, he is not someone you can train, right? What are you training? Zhao Shu smiled and didn't directly answer. Fishman Karate. Betty snorted and said. Fishman Karate is a unique skill of all fishmen or merfolk in the One Piece world, but humans can also practice it. There is a veteran Fishman Karate instructor in the Revolutionary Army, Haku. Although his actual strength is not particularly strong, he selflessly imparts the essence of Fishman Karate, allowing the descendants of the Revolutionary Army to be no weaker than the world government. Alright. Then I'll give it a try and learn as well. Zhao Shu smiled. Fishman Karate is quite powerful, as demonstrated by Jinbei, one of the Shicibukai, who dominates the seas. Zhao Shu also wants to try and see if he can learn some new abilities in a way that is outside of the system. Give it a try. However, upon hearing Zhao Shu's casual words, Betty's forehead immediately showed a vein, her voice filled with anger. Alright, my training is very strict. The elementary school students below immediately started chattering. Oh no, the instructor is angry. That kid is going to be disciplined. Who let that kid underestimate our Fishman Karate? He deserves it. Fishman Karate can be said to be the revolutionaries' secret technique, so naturally they are not pleased. However, let's start training like this. Oh, can I also use your ability to inspire the Gura Gura no Mi? Zhao Shu smiled. Alright. Betty coldly snorted, waving the flag in her hand. What's your name? Zhao Shu. Zhao Shu, you're already this old, yet you don't even understand the word effort. Betty coldly snorted. You've wasted so much time, now you have to make up for it. Even if it means staying up all night, you have to learn the basics. Upon hearing this, the students behind her looked at Zhao Shu with a hint of pity in their eyes. Fishman Karate is a difficult martial art, and you expect to learn the basics in just one night. What a joke. It's obvious that the instructor is just finding an excuse to scold that kid later. Betty waved the flag while speaking. With her words, an invisible force seemed to surge in Zhao Shu's heart. And then it disappeared. It seems that the Gura no Mi doesn't have much use for someone at my level. Zhao Shu squinted his eyes. With just a few words, he could exhaust those students in training, but it had almost no effect on him. This is normal. If the Gura no Mi could affect anyone, that would be strange. However, it seems that your devil fruit ability is not enough. Zhao Shu smiled. Betty frowned. She had never encountered this situation before. But since the devil fruit ability is not enough, let's try some normal inspiration. Zhao Shu blinked his eyes and smiled. For example, if you say that if I complete the basic training in one night, you'll let me hold you for a while, I will definitely be very inspired. Upon hearing this, Betty's face first turned red, then she immediately became angry. All right. In return, if you can't complete it, don't blame me for not being polite. All right, no problem. Zhao Shu revealed a gentle smile, with the pattern of the Sharingan appearing in his eyes. All right, you demonstrate it first. How is this possible? Betty, along with a group of students, stared blankly at Zhao Shu. Just now, he flawlessly performed fishman karate, not to mention how perfect it was, but it was exactly the same as Betty's demonstration. There was not a single mistake. Although it was only the basics and not difficult to learn, he only glanced at it. The corners of Zhao Shu's mouth curled up. The Sharingan already had the ability to enhance observation, and the Mangekyo Sharingan enhanced it even further. By now, he could already use the Rinnegan, so what was copying a basic fishman karate to him? You must have learned it in advance, right? Right. Betty immediately exclaimed in embarrassment. Their bet. How is that possible? Zhao Shu shrugged. I just joined the revolutionaries, and I had never seen fishman karate before. Then how did you learn it? Probably because I'm smart. Betty. This answer left her speechless. In fact, she could also understand that her fishman karate, although she could teach it to others, was not perfect. At least Haku's performance was much better than hers. And every move Zhao Shu made was exactly the same as hers. How could he have learned it in advance? But if you were to say he was smart. All right, I don't believe you can learn anything else in an instant. Betty's face turned red with anger as she shouted. Oh, then please continue teaching. Zhao Shu blinked. Half an hour later. How is this possible? Betty collapsed to the ground in a daze, her eyes staring blankly. From the basics of fishman karate to advanced techniques, and even the top-level martial arts that Betty had mastered. Everything was emptied out by Zhao Shu in this half hour. And everything was done so perfectly, as if Betty herself was performing these moves. So amazing. He just started learning, right? He learned fishman karate in such a short time? The group of kids below were filled with excitement. There was even a little girl who stood up excitedly and said, Big brother, can you teach us fishman karate? Who are you? Zhao Shu squinted his eyes, feeling a bit familiar with the little girl in front of him. My name is Koala. Can you teach us fishman karate? Koala's eyes sparkled. If the person in front of them taught, it must be better than Betty, who was emptied out in half an hour, right? Sure. I will teach you all generously. Zhao Shu showed a gentle smile. But first, please fulfill your instructor's promise. Betty's body stiffened, and then she heard a group of kids below suddenly become excited, cheering together. Hug one. Hug one. Hug one. Betty blushed and subconsciously took a step back. But the man in front of her was getting closer. In the following period of time, Dragon continued to study the theories given by Zhao Shu, while Zhao Shu himself had no work to do and leisurely stayed at the Revolutionary Army headquarters. Every day, he would go out to teach the recruits of the Revolutionary Army and casually tease their instructor. Gradually, he became familiar with that group of brats, especially Koala. Of course, there was also Betty. Uchiha Madara remained silent for a while. It was estimated that the higher-ups of the Revolutionary Army were not as familiar with him as they were with Zhao Shu. After all, Uchiha Madara had an arrogant personality. What could Zhao Shu do? Zhao Shu was also helpless. About 10 days passed like this, and Dragon finally came out of seclusion. After coming out, he went straight to Zhao Shu and Uchiha Madara's residence. However, when he saw Zhao Shu, he had a wry smile on his face and couldn't speak for a long time. What's wrong? Zhao Shu asked curiously. It's nothing. Dragon shook his head and let out a sigh. After Zhao Shu took out those things, Dragon had been pondering until now, and he had gained many insights. Perfect guiding ideology, grand development concepts, accurate understanding of human nature, clear and reasonable descriptions of various classes. Almost no modifications were needed to serve as the main principles of the revolutionary army and overthrow the country. Confidently, he had tried to find errors in Zhao Shu's words, to find areas that could be considered and modified. But in the end, apart from minor differences in their understanding of martial arts, he couldn't find a single mistake. He had worked hard for more than 10 years, only to be easily defeated by a casual remark from someone. Fortunately, Dragon had a broad mind, otherwise an ordinary person would probably go crazy. Taking a deep breath, Dragon stood up and then bowed to Zhao Shu. Huh? What are you doing? Zhao Shu asked curiously. It's nothing. I just hope that you, sir, will continue to guide the revolutionary army, Dragon said in a deep voice. But Robin, who was beside them, widened her eyes. The bow just now was a gesture of respect. Dragon actually recognized Zhao Shu as his master? Robin was shocked on the side, but Zhao Shu had no reaction at all, because he had no idea what Dragon's bow meant. He was unfamiliar with this etiquette. Moreover, he didn't pay much attention to it and let Dragon complete this ritual. So, as the next step, teacher, what do you think about the current situation of our revolutionaries? Dragon spoke in a low voice, leaving Zhao Shu utterly confused. Fortunately, Robin was perceptive and understood Zhao Shu's lack of common knowledge. She quietly pulled him aside and whispered a few words in his ear. And then Zhao Shu became even more confused. Dragon became a disciple? Just now? And I didn't refuse this etiquette, so does that mean I've accepted him as my disciple? So now I am Dragon's master. Don't people in your pirate world inform in advance when they become disciples? Of course, this master is not the kind of mentor who imparts knowledge and skills, but more like the ancient concept of a mentor. The political system proposed by Dragon is just a more perfect version of yours, a modification rather than guidance from start to finish. But he is still a teacher. Teacher, what do you think we should do next in the revolutionary army? Dragon asked eagerly. There are many strong individuals in the revolutionary army, Dragon, Bear, the transvestite King Ivankov. But only Dragon plays with this ideological manifesto and determines the direction of the organization. Now that there is an additional teacher, he naturally wants to seek some advice and experience. Zhao Shu was utterly confused. I only know about the little girls and little boys in the revolutionary army. What do you want me to say? So he could only respond, how about we continue like this for now? I see, continue to hide ourselves, accumulate strength, and find the weaknesses of the world government, right? Dragon, who knows what he was imagining, muttered, truly a teacher. Zhao Shu. He realized that Dragon, who was originally very reliable, seemed to have changed after being influenced by his knowledge of the mustache. The revolutionary army's power is far from being as strong as it was when the plot started 10 years later. Although they have many strong individuals, they lack a sufficient number of lower-level members and influence, making them weak in the long run. And now, the revolutionary army is facing a shortage of resources. Lack of funds, lack of personnel, lack of everything. Zhao Shu took the opportunity to hope to exchange the gold coins in his hand for devil fruits. Unfortunately, the revolutionary army's power was still weak, and they couldn't offer precious fruits. They needed to cultivate new recruits, and the remaining fruits were not enough to exchange for all of Zhao Shu's funds. In the end, Zhao Shu spent 1 billion berries to buy 5 devil fruits, emptying the revolutionary army's treasury. Of course, the devil fruits on the revolutionary army's side couldn't be the lowest grade ones worth 100 million berries. Although they weren't top-notch, the average purchase price was only 200 million berries each, which was quite a discount for Zhao Shu. The main task of the revolutionary army is still to overthrow the world government. Perhaps I should find another way to obtain devil fruits. Zhao Shu squinted his eyes. Marine definitely has devil fruits, but unfortunately Saitama doesn't have much reason to ask for or exchange them. As for the others, he doesn't know any major merchant characters. Although there are some people in the revolutionary army who have connections with merchants, like the one who informed Dragon of Uchiha Madara's location. But in reality, the merchants the revolutionary army contacts are just small-time merchants. It was a joint effort of several big merchants and small merchants to secure the trade with Uchiha Madara. The revolutionary army is actually quite poor. Among the people Zhao Shu knows, the only one who can deal with devil fruits is Doflamingo. This guy can even create artificial devil fruits. But unfortunately, Zhao Shu himself sent this guy to Impel down, where he is currently keeping company with the warden Magellan. For now, he can only continue carrying the money. But it seems that the revolutionary army is a bit poor. They happen to trade with Zhao Shu and obtain some money, so they plan to replenish their food supplies. The place they are going to is a place Zhao Shu is familiar with. Shimotsuki Village. Shimotsuki Village is located in East Blue and is a peaceful little town. It is said that the name of the village is related to Shimotsuki Yasui, the former daimyo who served the Kozuki family in Wano country, but it is not known if it is true. Uchiha Madara and the others followed Dragon to Shimotsuki Village and easily found Koshiro, the owner of the Shimotsuki Village dojo. Long time no see. Dragon's voice carried a hint of emotion. Yeah, are you here to prepare provisions again? Koshiro also smiled. Dragon laughed. Yes, but this time we plan to buy more. It can be seen that the two were quite familiar with each other. Zhao Shu also took a few more glances at Koshiro, although it was just a casual glance, he could sense a hidden sharpness from him. Obviously, this person is not as weak as everyone imagines. Who is this? Koshiro seemed to have noticed Zhao Shu's gaze and asked. My teacher, he has inspired me in many things. Dragon introduced with a smile. The two chatted and laughed, reminiscing about the past. Zhao Shu sat on the side and after a while, he didn't bother them anymore and decided to go out for a walk on his own. I wonder if Zoro is here now. But Kuina should be here, right? Narrowing his eyes, his perception expanded. In the next second, he found Kuina's location. In the warehouse. As usual, Kuina climbed up to the second floor of the warehouse. There was a very good whetstone here. Although knives were the mainstream weapons of the present era, they still needed maintenance, especially for better knives. The better the knife, the more time their owners needed to spend on maintenance. And Kuina herself was a lover of swords, and her sword was a genuine famous sword, the Wado Ichimonji. Found it. Kuina's eyes lit up. The whetstone that could sharpen the Wado Ichimonji was actually a rare treasure. This whetstone actually belonged to her father, Koshiro, but it should be okay to use it secretly, right? Carrying the heavy whetstone, Kuina was about to descend the ladder. Suddenly, she stepped on empty space, and the heavy whetstone pressed against her body as she fell. Not good. Kuina was not weak, but she was only an 11-year-old child. If this continued. She instinctively closed her eyes, and her mind went blank. Am I going to die? The next second, universal pull. A strange force appeared, grabbing Kuina's body out of thin air and pulling her to the side. Her whole body, along with the whetstone, was sucked away. Next, she felt a gentle embrace that helped stabilize her body. Phew. Luckily I made it in time. A magnetic voice, with a hint of relaxation. Kuina hesitated to open her eyes, but she saw a man in black clothes with a handsome face. He was holding her, with one hand also holding the whetstone to prevent it from falling and hitting him. Feeling the strong male presence, Kuina blushed and quickly broke free from his embrace, stepping back a few steps. Sorry. Zhao Shu smiled lightly. Are you okay? The one who made the move just now was none other than Zhao Shu. I'm fine. Thank you for saving me. Kuina quickly bowed, as her upbringing was strict. It's nothing. Zhao Shu smiled. But next time, be more careful. For example, you could install a ladder here. Is Koshiro's family really that poor? Kuina's face turned slightly red, unsure if it was because she had been too close to a man's body just now or for some other reason. Zhao Shu spoke casually, but there was a sense of relief in his eyes. Lucky. If he hadn't arrived in time, they would have held Kuina's funeral. Are you a friend of my father? Kuina curiously asked. Sort of, although we just met today. Zhao Shu shrugged. I'm Zhao Shu, here to accompany someone to buy food. Oh, you're Mr. Long. Kuina suddenly realized. Long had come to the Ichimonji dojo to buy food more than once, and Kuina was familiar with him. But wasn't it a person with a big face who used to come to buy food before? Oh, she's on maternity leave recently and busy giving birth. Is that so? Yeah, that's probably it. After blackening the Demon King, the two were chatting when suddenly a figure approached. Uchiha Madara. Brother. Zhao Shu smiled lightly. Uchiha Madara nodded, then looked at Kuina. Go to the dojo, your father is calling you. The dojo was not far from here, but it was not close either. It seems that Koshiro's observation haki is not weak. Kuina was stunned for a moment, her eyes filled with a hint of sadness. Obviously, she was about to be scolded. It would take some time for the revolutionaries to gather enough food, so it seemed that they would need to stay at Koshiro's place for 2 or 3 days. But Long was in a good mood now. Although Koshiro was one of the few supporters of the revolutionaries, they still needed money to buy food from him. It seemed that because Zhao Shu had saved his daughter's life, he planned to give them a good discount. Zhao Shu didn't feel anything about this. After returning to the dojo, Koshiro expressed his gratitude to him for a long time. But for him, being thanked by a big man was nothing special. Kuina is probably being scolded right now. She almost died, so it would be strange if her parents didn't scold her. But this kind of family matter was not something Long and Zhao Shu could intervene in, nor did they have the right to intervene. Zhao Shu also had no intention of getting involved in other people's family disputes. He was standing on the beach, leisurely watching the coastline. The sea seemed to be something that could never be seen enough. Zhao Shu suddenly looked up and saw someone beside him. Kuina's eye sockets were filled with tears as she walked step by step towards him. Until she saw Zhao Shu, she hesitated for a moment and sat down next to him. She didn't say a word, and Zhao Shu didn't speak either. They sat like this for who knows how long, until Kuina finally said something. Hey, Zhao Shu. Is it true that women can't become the strongest in the world? In fact, just now, Kuina was scolded by Koshiro again. This is not a big deal, after all, I did something dangerous, so being scolded a few times is expected. But when Koshiro learned that I almost got into danger because I wanted to use a whetstone, he immediately became furious and blurted out many words. Among them was, women can never become the strongest in the world. The other words don't matter, but this sentence. Kuina bit her lip. In fact, this kind of conversation had happened countless times between the two father and daughter before. Even Kuina herself knew that female swordsmen had a major flaw. Strength. In terms of strength, female swordsmen can never compare to males. Swordsmanship is martial arts, and strength cannot match that of males. How much skill does a woman need to be stronger than a man in order to compensate for this? This is an inherent deficiency, a difficult hurdle to overcome. But after seeing Zhao Shu's figure, she couldn't help but ask. Is it true that women can never become the strongest in the world? And Zhao Shu answered without hesitation, of course women can become the strongest in the world. It took Kuina 3 minutes to understand Zhao Shu's meaning. It's not that Zhao Shu's words were difficult to understand, but what does he mean? Does he really think that women can become number 1 in the world? Kuina's mind became a mess, murmuring and repeating Zhao Shu's words, women can become the strongest in the world. But soon, her murmurs turned into a bitter smile. How is that possible? Kuina smiled bitterly and whispered, the strength of women can't compare to that of men. You may not know, but in the dojo, I had a match with a boy. Originally, I completely overwhelmed him, but now, he is constantly catching up to me. She was talking about Zoro. Although so far, Zoro is far from being on par with Kuina. Even when Kuina and Zoro spar with real swords, there is still room for mercy. But Zoro is constantly catching up. This pursuit is putting pressure even on Kuina. Kuina instinctively touched her chest, which has started to develop and gradually become bigger. Not to mention the impact of the extra fat on swordsmanship, the crucial point is that women start to become weaker than boys at this age. Who said it's impossible? Zhao Shu asked strangely instead. My father, Kuina said with a bitter smile. He is just narrow-minded. Zhao Shu said without hesitation. He has never seen a true female powerhouse, that's why he would say such things. Narrow-minded. Although Koshiro is not an exceptionally strong man, he is still a swordsman. Kuina pouted and asked, then do you know any female powerhouses? Auntie. Zhao Shu looked at her with surprise. The 4 emperors of New World, their strength is so formidable that even the Marines cannot defeat them. They are invincible and renowned throughout the seas. Haven't you heard? Oh, right, she also uses a sword. Shuangzhao Napoleon is both a hat and a sword. She also learned some swordsmanship from the giants. With her full power, wiping out a city is not a big problem. But she's not the strongest in the world. Kuina naturally knew about the widely known four emperors, but in the eyes of everyone, Charlotte Linlin's strength is still not on par with Whitebeard, Kaido, and others. The reason? Is it because Charlotte Linlin is a woman? Actually, that's exactly the reason. Prejudice can be found everywhere in society. However, I have seen the strongest woman in the world. Zhao Shu thought for a moment and said, the methods she left behind calculated my brother, Uchiha Madara. It's not an exaggeration to say that she is the strongest woman. Kaguya-hime. The final boss of the Hokage, a rare woman who occupies the highest point of martial strength and becomes the ultimate enemy of the protagonist. Are you sure she's the strongest in the world? Kuina frowned her pretty eyebrows. She had heard of the Uchiha clan in the news, and they were indeed very strong. But is someone stronger than Uchiha Madara the strongest in the world? Kuina grew up hearing the phrase, women can never become the strongest, and although she always forced herself not to believe it, deep down, she couldn't help but be influenced to some extent. Yeah, I'm sure. Zhao Shu smiled. Actually, the strongest in the world is a woman. At least in the world of pirates, are there any men stronger than Kaguya-hime? But seeing Kuina still wearing a somewhat skeptical expression, Zhao Shu stood up with a light laugh, no longer explaining, but instead said. Kuina, the strongest in the world is not determined by evaluation, but by killing. But even if it's evaluation, only the strong have the qualifications to evaluate who is the strongest, so. The next moment, his chakra suddenly erupted. Dark blue chakra soared into the sky. Bones, muscles, armor. To Kuina's astonishment, a giant the size of a small mountain appeared out of thin air. Complete Susanoo. Kuina, if anyone says in front of you that women can't become the strongest, you tell them. The giant suddenly drew his sword, and then a resolute sword aura slashed out. Boom. The sea was split open by that sword, revealing a dried-up riverbed underground. The riverbed was at least 30 meters wide, and its length was beyond sight. After a full 10 seconds, the water on both sides finally roared and closed again. Zhao Shu's chakra slowly dissipated from his body. He smiled, lightly saying, "You tell them to surpass me first before saying such things." Koshiro noticed that his daughter seemed to have suddenly become more confident. This was strange, considering that she had initially tried her best to prove herself to him after he had once said that women can never become the strongest. But as she grew older and Zoro came into the picture, Kuina gradually became more subdued. It was clear that she knew the weaknesses of a female swordsman. But now, it seemed like she had returned to being the strong-willed daughter she once was. Why was she like this? Oh, right. His daughter had asked him if she could split the sea with a single sword. What a joke, who could do that? And then, there was a hint of disdain in her eyes, as if saying, so this is all you're capable of? You said women can't become the strongest. Just as he finished scolding her, he immediately regretted it and even worried if he had been too harsh. Before he could think of what to say to comfort his daughter, she gave him that look. Indeed, a daughter's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea. Koshiro exclaimed, a sentiment often felt by men. Zoro was also very curious. He had just fought with Kuina, but of course, it ended in defeat. But Kuina's sword seems even sharper. Little boy Zoro furrowed his brow. At his age, he didn't understand much, but if it were him in the future, he would definitely use the most accurate words to describe what he felt. In her sword, there is no confusion. The transaction proceeded as usual. This time, Koshiro gave a big discount, making Dragon even happier and willing to pay more money to purchase more provisions. Although Dragon had a cold and aloof leadership style. But there was no choice, the revolutionary army still needed to eat. As a new force, it really needed help from all sides to grow. The gains from this time could greatly benefit the revolutionary army for a long time. Of course, this had little to do with Zhao Shu. What really concerned him was, congratulations, host, for unlocking the third character template. Third character template? Zhao Shu squinted his eyes and glanced at his system. The first template, Uchiha Madara, now had a realism rating of 74%, and the second template, Saitama, had a realism rating of 67%. Although Uchiha Madara faced the high-ranking members of the Revolutionary Army, he lacked opportunities to showcase himself. But Saitama had consecutively hunted down many pirates, putting on a more thorough performance and increasing his realism rating by a full 4%, and even his fame had gradually grown. However, from this, it could be seen that there didn't seem to be any specific requirements for unlocking a new character template. Last time, Uchiha Madara had a realism rating of 6%, and this time it was 67%, completely different numbers, and the time interval was also uncertain, so it shouldn't matter. Was it all luck? There were pros and cons to this. The advantage was that if there was a person that Zhao Shu didn't want to play, such as a transvestite, a woman, or a gay person, even if he didn't play the role, he could wait patiently over time and eventually get the next character. Otherwise, if the system gave Zhao Shu a gay character, would he play it or not? If he didn't play it, then he could forget about obtaining a new character template. Playing it, he couldn't get past this hurdle in his heart. Even if he could use a clone to play the role, he couldn't accept it. But there were also disadvantages, such as not being able to control the appearance of the new template, which could cause some trouble. Of course, compared to the advantages, this disadvantage was nothing. But, looking at the name on the system interface, Zhao Shu's pupils contracted. The second template is actually him. This character is quite interesting. Zhao Shu revealed a smile. To let a new character appear, he needed a good stage. Coincidentally, he also wanted to obtain a larger devil fruit, and that stage could provide him with a lot of help. Perhaps, he could even establish a stable source of devil fruit acquisition. So, Zhao Shu formed hand seals with both hands, and his body grew wooden, gradually transforming into the appearance of Zhao Shu and Uchiha Madara. Let's begin. Impel Down, also known as the Great Prison of the Deep Sea. It is the world's #1 prison, located in the calm belt of the first half of the Grand Line. Security is extremely tight, and only certain marine ships are allowed to enter and exit. The prison is built entirely underwater and has a tower-like structure, surrounded by countless giant sea kings, earning it the nickname, Copper-Walled Ironclad. The prison guards here are not worried about any prisoners escaping because there is enough power to suppress all prisoners in this prison. The chief warden, Magellan, is as powerful as a marine admiral. The head jailer, Shiryu, is no less formidable than Magellan. In addition, there are numerous capable jailers, surveillance den mushi bugs spread throughout the prison, ever-watchful surveillance guards, and 6 levels of cells for various types of prisoners. Although recently there have been some troublesome escaped prisoners, it's nothing more than that. As for escaping, who can escape besides Golden Lion? Where is the chief warden? Vice Chief Warden Hanayabal asked. The deputy head jailer next to him replied, he's in the bathroom. He's still having diarrhea. Really, how can someone like him hold the position of chief warden? I hope he quickly gives up his seat as chief warden. Vice Chief Warden, calm down. Nothing is going to happen anyway. That's right. When has anything ever happened at Impel Down? Golden Lion 10 years ago. But since then, Impel Down has been reinforced countless times. Even the Golden Lion from back then couldn't escape. So Hanayabal just shrugged and didn't say much. However, boom. A tremendous shockwave came, and Impel Down shook several times. What's going on? An earthquake. The two were startled, but before they could think much, they heard a message from the surveillance room. Report to the Vice Chief Warden, there's an enemy invasion. What? Hanayabal was taken aback and quickly grabbed a den mushi bug, shouting, what's going on? Who is invading? We're not sure either. It's someone not on the wanted list. Is he attacking Impel Down? Where is he now? What about the fleet outside Impel Down? Order them to counterattack. The fleet has been completely wiped out. He has already invaded the 3rd underground level, Starvation Hell. Oh no, he has now blasted through the floor of the 3rd underground level and landed in the 4th level, Blazing Hell. What? Hanayabal's face was full of astonishment. Impel Down is divided into 6 levels, and the more dangerous the prisoner, the deeper they are placed. The 3rd underground level is where the most dangerous criminals with bounties exceeding 50 million berries are held, and the 4th underground level is even more dangerous. It's only been a short while. from the shaking of Impel down to the invasion of the 4th underground level. Less than 5 minutes in total. Soon, within just a minute, Hyori heard that the intruder had penetrated into the 5th underground level, freezing hell. In an instant, Hyori also felt as if he were in freezing hell, bone-chilling cold. Who is it? How could he break into the 5th level in just a few minutes? Does he still want to continue going down? The 6th underground level, eternal hell. The prisoners here are all formidable individuals, either sentenced to death or lifelong imprisonment. The prisoners held here are monsters among pirates, either erased from history due to their extreme viciousness or near legendary figures. Their fate is either death or lifelong imprisonment. Due to the heinous acts committed by the prisoners on this level, some of which are beyond cruelty, the government has covered up these events, deliberately concealing them even from the newspapers. The Golden Lion of the past was imprisoned on the 6th underground floor. If the prisoners here were released, in an instant, Hyori shuddered and shouted, "Quick, go inform the warden." In reality, just as Hyori had thought, the invaders had indeed infiltrated the 6th underground floor. So this is it. A man clad in shining golden armor, with a proud expression. Interesting, interesting. In the future, I can turn my country's prison into something like this. The prisoners on the 6th underground floor cannot be simply described as ferocious. Unlike the various punishments above, these guys are so dangerous that even the guards dare not impose punishments on them, because if something goes wrong, someone will immediately escape. Countless fierce and dangerous auras permeate the 6th underground floor, and an ordinary person would go insane within 3 days at most. However, this man walks here as if he were in a bustling market. The dangerous prisoners on the 6th underground floor also notice the approaching figure. Who? Isn't that Magellan? He actually came to the 6th underground floor. What was that shaking just now? Whoever it is, hey, kid, release me, or I'll kill you right now. Yes, open the doors for me, and I'll protect you from now on. I'll even go on a rampage with you. I miss the taste of the women in East Blue. Ha ha ha. What taste can women have? They all taste the same, like human flesh. Kid, release me quickly. The arrogant words, the twisted and chilling feeling, madness to the point of being pathological. Just as they were listening to those disrespectful words, a cold voice rang out. A group of crawling insects on the ground. Who allowed you crawling insects to raise your heads? Cold words, a proud tone. But before the unruly prisoners could speak, the next second, ripples suddenly appeared behind the man in golden armor. Elegant, sharp, and unrestrained shapes. Different forms of knives, guns, swords, and halberds emerged from those ripples. And then, like cannonballs, they blasted towards the surrounding prisoners. Boom. 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 Those differently shaped weapons almost instantly severed the prison doors and blasted onto the prisoners. In an instant, blood flowed everywhere. It is your honor to die in the treasures collected by me, the man in golden armor said calmly, his words filled with a sense of entitlement. As if it were meant to be. A hint of horror flashed in the eyes of the surrounding prisoners. This guy actually acted without hesitation. And when he acted, those powerhouses died directly. Who is he, exactly? The man in golden armor walked over with large strides, passing by one prison cell after another, and finally arrived at a relatively clean cell compared to the others. The prisoner looked up upon hearing the sound. You must be Doflamingo, the man in golden armor said proudly. He. It's me. And who are you? Doflamingo let out his signature laughter, but his eyes were full of vigilance. Who is this guy, exactly? However, the answer he received was, how dare you ask for my name, you lowly scum? The hero king, Gilgamesh, is Zhao Shu's third template. From the Fate series, his true identity is the fifth king of the city-state of Uruk, an ancient civilization in the Mesopotamian region. He is the protagonist of the oldest epic poem in human history, the Epic of Gilgamesh, and the oldest, hero king. He possesses a divinity that is 2/3 god and 1/3 human. In the entire Fate series, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he is the strongest heroic spirit. Ordinary heroic spirits are no match for him. If he were to fight seriously, he would be an invincible servant, and the war would end overnight. He wears golden armor, has golden hair and red eyes, a slender figure, and exudes a unique aura. His face is cold, and his expression is incredibly arrogant. He looks down at Doflamingo with his red eyes. Doflamingo furrows his brows. As a celestial dragon, he has faced many challenges since childhood, but being called a bastard to his face, this is the first time. However, he must be here to find me. Doflamingo, after all, is a remarkable person and naturally sees through the other's intentions. Sure enough, Gilgamesh speaks next. I heard that you, a lowly scum, dare to sell my treasures? Your treasures? Doflamingo is a bit confused. All the treasures in this world belong to me, such as devil fruits. Gilgamesh narrows his eyes. Doflamingo. Naturally, he sells devil fruits, and he even keeps some good abilities specifically for his subordinates to use. So, this person found me selling devil fruits and came looking for me? But devil fruits are treasures of the sea. When did they become yours? Doflamingo couldn't help but speak. A foolish question, Gilgamesh sneers arrogantly. When the world was still one, weren't all treasures owned by a single king? His tone is as if it's a matter of course, a natural statement. Even Doflamingo, who was once a celestial dragon, is dumbfounded. Although celestial dragons are already quite arrogant, it seems that they are no match for this man's pride. You say that all those treasures are yours. Do you even know what devil fruits are? Doflamingo asks, dumbfounded. Although there are devil fruit catalogs in the world, there are still quite a few devil fruits that have not been discovered. This person. However, Gilgamesh says confidently, the total value of my possessions has exceeded my comprehension. As long as it is a treasure, it must be mine. That is clear. All the treasures in this world will naturally belong to me. No matter how precious a devil fruit is, it is unbearable for those lowly scums to snatch them from each other without my permission. His tone is unwavering, as if he truly believes that those pirates, bounty hunters, and others are trying to snatch his treasures. Gilgamesh's eyes fall on Doflamingo. Scum, you are one of those who dared to snatch my treasures. But if you submit to me, I will temporarily forgive your disrespect. I'll give you 10 seconds to consider, to worship me, to submit to me, or die. Upon hearing this, Doflamingo squints his eyes. He is a celestial dragon, but his power has not yet reached the level where he can control everything underground and have some connections with the higher-ups of the celestial dragons. When he was captured by Saitama, although some of his subordinates survived because they did not participate in the operation, such as Monet and Sugar, Doflamingo knows that those people do not have the ability to rescue him from Impel down. They lack the ability, connections, and even wealth. Moreover, since the establishment of Impel down, has anyone ever escaped? Only one person, Golden Lion. Doflamingo is arrogant, but he never arrogantly believes that he is stronger than Golden Lion. Not to mention that since Golden Lion's escape, Impel down has been rebuilt, with strengthened security. Even if Golden Lion were to return, he would never be able to escape. So, Doflamingo looks at the man in golden armor before him and slightly lowers his head. I submit. Crack. The incredibly sturdy seastone gate was cut by a sword. Doflamingo revealed his signature smile and walked out of the prison with his unique stride. He was also a hero, so Zhao Shu naturally wouldn't easily believe that he would submit. But it didn't matter. At worst, he would just kill him. Zhao Shu had the confidence to do so. Although the new template was not yet perfect, his combat power was weaker compared to Saitama and others. But the Fate Stay Night world was not known for boasting about destructive power like destroying planets. In this world, the focus was more on rules. For example, the mystic eyes of death perception. As long as they were used properly, even if the realism was relatively low, they could still achieve remarkable results. At the very least, killing a Doflamingo was not particularly difficult. If worse came to worst, he could ask Saitama to take action and kill Doflamingo. Doflamingo himself wouldn't easily submit, but after looking around, he slightly bowed to Gilgamesh, saying, "Greetings, my king." This place was still the deep sea prison. Even if he wanted to rebel, he had to escape first before rebelling. He was a sensible person and wouldn't easily initiate a rebellion. Gilgamesh nodded arrogantly. Very well, then follow this king. Feel honored, lowly servant, to have this king, who should be admired, standing on this land beneath the sea surface. Wait, my king. Doflamingo grinned and looked at the other prisoners in the prison. We are all prisoners. Why don't we release them and break out together? Doflamingo didn't care about how to escape from outside the deep-sea prison. His title as the Heavenly Yaksha was not a joke. As long as there was sky, he could leave directly. But breaking out of the 6th level of the prison and seeing the blue sky. There was someone in the deep-sea prison, Magellan. With his power to suppress the 6th level of the prison and kill any prisoner here, he was difficult to deal with. It would be better to find some cannon fodder and break out together. Gilgamesh's response to this was, "Do as you please." Doflamingo was a capable person. Without hesitation, he used escape as bait to make an agreement with the prisoners to obey his commands. Then, before Magellan and Shiryu appeared, he led the prisoners to break out of the 6th level and move towards the 5th level, 4th level. While releasing prisoners and gathering the elites among them, he also searched for his subordinates. "Young master, have you finally saved me?" Yora smiled on her face. "He. We can roam the seas again." Trable laughed. Break out of the deep-sea prison." Gladius's hair swelled as if it were angry. These people were all captured by Saitama and sent to the deep-sea prison. Now returning to Doflamingo's subordinates is only natural. However, he's just watching like this. Watching me gather my subordinates. Doflamingo glanced discreetly at Gilgamesh standing on a rooftop, a hint of confusion flashing in his eyes. Rarely does he not know that he is constantly increasing his power, and he might rebel at any time. Does he really believe in the nominal submission? Or does he know that I have ulterior motives and doesn't care? Doflamingo fell silent for a moment and continued to command the prisoners to move forward. There are many guards in Impel Down, and many of them are powerful, but compared to the strong ones on the 6th and 5th levels underground, they are much weaker. The prisoners continued to advance, their actions incredibly swift. Of course, there were also reasons why the chief guards withdrew the forces from the lower levels and concentrated them to avoid unnecessary sacrifices. Soon, the prisoners encountered obstacles on the 3rd level. Because Magellan has arrived. None of you can escape. Magellan snorted coldly and suddenly spewed out venomous blowfish. A large number of venomous balls were sprayed out, like bombs exploding. Countless prisoners were poisoned and let out cries of pain. Magellan's poison is deadly unless the antidote in the prison is used. In an instant, the scene turned into a hellish nightmare. Magellan himself has a peculiar appearance, like a demon. In this situation, he is truly a demon. The venom fruit? It's a bit troublesome. Doflamingo's eyes flashed with seriousness. The ability of the venom fruit user allows them to produce deep purple venom from any part of their body, including sweat, saliva, breath, and even sighs, all of which are toxic gas. Its venom can paralyze nerves, cause pain or hallucinations, and even cause death. The strength of the venom is also enough to dissolve rocks with a single strike. Even touching it would be fatal. This is definitely one of the most dangerous abilities. Even Doflamingo himself wouldn't dare to personally experience this poison. So, my king, what should your subordinates do? Doflamingo smiled and looked at Gilgamesh standing at the highest point. After all, your subordinates are just miscellaneous cultivators. There was a hint of mockery in his eyes. Do you think you can make me, Doflamingo, your subordinate so easily? But if you take back the words, miscellaneous cultivators, and subordinates, I, Heavenly Yaksha, can also fight alongside you. However, Gilgamesh just glanced at him disdainfully. Since you are my king's subordinate, let me give you an order first. Since you are a miscellaneous cultivator, just show yourself as one. When you still don't understand the principles of everything, just appreciate the majesty of your king. Since you're a miscellaneous cultivator, show me your true colors as a miscellaneous cultivator. As long as you appreciate the majesty of this king as a ruler, even if you don't understand the principles of all things. Doflamingo's originally smiling face instantly turned dark. But he was also a cunning strategist, remaining silent and taking a few steps back. I want to see what you can do. Doflamingo was internally furious, but his gaze remained fixed on Gilgamesh. This person is too mysterious. Suddenly appearing and charging all the way into Impel Down, his strength must not be weak. Unfortunately, Doflamingo had never heard of this person before. Even now, he still hasn't revealed his identity. Perfect. Now let's see his strength. On the other side, Magellan's gaze was also fixed on Gilgamesh. Is this the person who invaded my Impel Down? Suddenly barging in, making it all the way to the bottom, releasing numerous prisoners, causing a riot in the lowest level of the prison. Impel Down's reputation was almost ruined by this person. If they wanted to maintain this reputation, there was only one way. Kill this person. The next second, Magellan's eyes sharpened. But the next second, Gilgamesh, with a disdainful gaze, directly spoke. Who allowed you to look at this king, you miscellaneous cultivator? Buzzing. Ripples shimmered behind Gilgamesh. Various weapons, such as knives, guns, swords, and halberds, emerged from the golden ripples behind him. Elegant, sharp, unrestrained. Each weapon carried an unparalleled uniqueness, as if it harbored a certain will. What is this? Magellan's expression changed. If it weren't for his clear mind, he would have felt that each weapon was an extremely precious treasure, an unparalleled great swift blade. But it's not just knives here, moreover. When I saw the 5 elders before, that unparalleled great swift blade didn't have the formidable aura of these weapons. It's here again, the same move. Doflamingo's pupils contracted. When Gilgamesh first appeared, he effortlessly killed the criminals on the 6th level of the prison with this move. It should be noted that although the criminals on the 6th level varied in strength, even the weakest among them were powerful individuals with bounties exceeding 1 billion. And the stronger ones. However, whether it was these strong individuals or the seastone-made prison gates, they were powerless against these weapons. Gilgamesh crossed his arms, not even sparing a glance at Magellan. At least use your dying appearance to please this king, miscellaneous cultivator. The next second, bang, 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 bang. Several weapons were suddenly launched. The sound of breaking through the air was piercing, and the sharp blades were surrounded by the coldest glimmers. Boom, boom, boom. A violent explosion instantly engulfed Magellan. Is he dead? Countless prisoners instinctively looked towards Magellan. Compared to the relatively average strength of the vice wardens, Magellan was the true powerhouse supporting Impel Down. Of course, there was also Shiryu, but in the next second. Poison dragon. Roar. A purple dragon roared and howled. Gilgamesh leapt in an instant, and in the next second, the dragon fiercely pounced on the cell he was standing on. In the sight of everyone, the cell was corroded by the poison, visible to the naked eye. A deadly poison that kills upon contact. At this moment, the storm subsided, revealing Magellan with his hollow body, elementalized. When attacking, it was a poison that no one dared to touch. When defending, it was a flowing elemental body. Tricky. Exceptionally tricky. Doflamingo squinted his eyes, even he didn't want to fight against such an opponent. It was precisely because of this that Magellan could become the warden of Impel Down. His strength was definitely not inferior to an admiral. If the enemy relied on physical attacks, he might even be stronger than an admiral. I see, although you are a hybrid, judging from your appearance, you are also a renowned warrior, but... Gilgamesh raised his eyebrows, a hint of anger flashing in his eyes. To dare to let this king, who should be revered, stand on the same ground as you, this disrespect deserves death. In the next second, behind him, ripples suddenly expanded. Originally, there were only about 10 weapons, but in an instant, they expanded to nearly 100. Doflamingo's face slightly changed. He had seen the power of that weapon just now, which was definitely hundreds of times stronger than a battleship's bombardment. However, now, the number had unexpectedly. Magellan's face also changed. He didn't know if the enemy would use Haki. If they did, he had to elementalize in advance and form a hollow to dodge the Haki-infused weapons coming at him. But this kind of attack, it was definitely not something that could be easily dodged. Who are you? Magellan's venom kept dripping, and 3 huge poison dragons formed behind him. I have never heard of someone like you. Why did you come to my Impel Down? Never heard of this king. Gilgamesh snorted coldly. Bathed in the glory of receiving an audience with this king, yet claiming not to recognize this king's face. This crime deserves death. But since you are also a renowned warrior, I will cleanse my ears and listen to you. Gilgamesh's golden hair fluttered, his handsome appearance, sword-like eyebrows, exuding an unparalleled heroism. I am the hero King Gilgamesh. The oldest and strongest king in human history.